Dave, you've been doing a lot of shows lately. I hear you're doing the Tonight Show tonight. You were on Sakaris and Price. You're doing Oprah pretty soon. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm on The View. I'm doing it all. I'm doing the whole circuit.
Thanks for taking the time to join our humble little show here,
No,
Dave.
thanks for having me.
Look, let's get right to it. Jonathan Lekkerimäki makes his NHL debut tonight. We were just talking about it. Skating with JT Miller and Jake DeBrusk. Do you like the decision from the head coach to put him in that spot?
Absolutely. And to be honest, I couldn't agree more with everything Harm said. Like Pettersson's going through the motions right now, and I think him and Garland finally have found a nice pocket where they're working together. And so JT Miller, he is that driver that's going to be going into the hard spots. We saw it with Atu Ratu. He's used to playing with him down in Abbotsford, who was kind of that go get the puck and I'll find a space for you. So I think it's a great idea. And Lekkerimäki's just so fantastic at getting himself into those spots. He's so dynamic in the way he moves. And he's one of those, he's an offensive guy that's a shoot first guy. While he wants to do all the plays, the ultimate goal is to find new spots to get that shot off. So I think JT Miller going to do the dirty work and him polishing off. Now it's just a matter of, as you kind of alluded to, Harm, does he have the timing? I'm good. I think the expectations are not to stress too much if he's not. I mean, it's game one. It's his first NHL game. He's playing right with the big dogs. It's going to be interesting to see. That's for sure.
Besides his shot, what do you think are his best, most NHL ready attributes when you look at maybe his hands, his hockey IQ, the way that he processes things on the ice? Besides his shot, what do you think is going to be plug and play as far as being effective at the NHL level?
Yeah, what I love about his game is just his ability to be deceptive, like the way he maneuvers around the ice, especially with the puck. You could see him. I wrote an article for Canucks Army this morning about him, and in a lot of the plays, even if it's the power play, yes, I get it. He's on the power play. A lot of guys do what he does, but the way that he's just never static in his movements, he's always doing something deceptive to throw the defenseman off, whether it's opening his hips, constantly moving around from each end, and just little head fakes, just little subtleties in his game that just freezes defenders and goaltenders at the perfect moment to make him, be able to either get around him or place that shot through traffic. He's just really deceptive and just really good at those little tiny subtle things to like open space up. So he's fantastic at that.
Okay, yes, we've heard a lot about the shot as well. Rick Tocchet saying that he just wants to see him shoot the puck. He's going to be in that spot with Miller and DeBrusk. This one is from Jesse C in our YouTube chat, Dave, and I wanted to get to it here. He said, if skating is supposedly what holds Ratu back at the NHL level, is Lekkerimäki significantly quicker or just smarter with his movement? Like, what's the story there?
That's a great question, actually, and I think it's the latter. I think he's more effective with his skating. He's not a burner by any means, but he just has that work ethic to kind of dig into the corners, and he's like the problem with Atu Ratu's skating is that his stride is so inefficient. It just doesn't work. Whereas Lekkerimäki doesn't have to really worry about that. His stride doesn't have those deficiencies in it. That being said, as I mentioned, he's not necessarily a burner, so I wouldn't. He's not going out there beating guys dead straight off the rush, but he just overall his skating, just the stride, and he's much more efficient with it. So
how did Archer Silovs look in his start down in Abbotsford? There's been a lot of attention on him given his poor start to the season at the NHL level.
Yeah, he looked good. I believe he faced 25 shots in total. He looked good. I mean, the AHL, it's an interesting. I've talked to a few people that are close to the NHL versus AHL kind of realm, and it's almost more difficult to play AHL after you've played so many games in the NHL because everything's just so calculated and so timely. Whereas in the AHL, it's a little bit more sporadic. Guys aren't as on it in terms of the plays that you would typically think. Like basically the reads. The reads are a little tougher in the AHL because they're not as dynamic and just polished as they would in the NHL. So, to be honest, I thought he looked fantastic. I'm really hoping, who knows what happens here. Obviously, the whole reason is because they have some days off here, but I would really like to see him get a few more games to gain some confidence because, the difference, goaltending has been a little skeptical in Abbotsford these days, so it was really nice just, being able to watch a game and they had confidence in the goaltender. So I think overall it was a good, solid performance, 23 saves. So.
Okay, a few things from me, Dave. The quick one here that I wanted to ask about was just like in terms of what that line does. Just the Miller line. Let's just call it the Miller line. When it comes to that line, like, they play a lot of minutes and they play against top competition. The thing I'm wondering about is this -8 plus-minus rating that we're seeing for Jonathan Lekkerimäki. I know you touched on it in the article that you wrote today, but just kind of contextualize that for me. Tell me about his defensive game and if you think he'll be able to go against that top competition, even if it is the Flames.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously -8 doesn't look good on anyone, but I did mention that I think a little bit of context has to be had where, the team just overall defensively is kind of breaking down a little bit. And so while I don't think it's all on him for the -8, there have been some moments where he was a little late on his back check, and some of his there was a little bit of swiping going on. And by that, I just mean, instead of like going for the body or the puck, he was trying to just do a little swat at the defender's stick, and it just wasn't really effective. And the defender was just easily getting around him. So, I think there still is a lot of, some polishing to be done. And more importantly, and I did allude to this in the article, for me, it's the physicality aspect. It's just, there has been times where he's definitely out-muscled, whether it's in the board battles or just straight up, open ice. He's been getting tossed around a little bit. And so I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for him. I think his positioning is fine in the defensive end, so I'm not so worried about his like overall 5-on-5 play. But for me, it's more just the physical play, which takes him out of that 5-on-5 play, because he just, he gets a little manhandled in those corners. So for me, that's the biggest one for his 5-on-5 play.
Do you think part of the logic behind the Canucks trade to send Daniel Sprong to Seattle was their belief in Lekkerimäki being NHL ready this season? And what were just overall your thoughts on Sprong getting sent to Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, I think it played in. Obviously, the Besser injury obviously plays right into it as well. But I think, it's one of those. I mean, let's be real here. Between all three of us, were any of us shocked it didn't work out? I mean, we're all really excited that we had this belief that, maybe it could work out. He's got that offensive drive. Like, he has all the intangibles to be a good offensive forward. But the problem is we know Rick Tocchet, and there are certain non-negotiables in his game that just, well, they're non-negotiables. And so that is one thing I am a little, I'll be quite honest, I am a little worried about Lekkerimäki in his first couple games. I just, we'll see how it works out. I think with Sprong, again, I'm not too upset because I'm not too shocked that he's not there. Overall, just as a systems player, he just doesn't seem to work in the system. I do agree that I was a little surprised that we didn't see him get a shot on the flank, considering that elite shot that he has. I thought, especially with a power play that was somewhat struggling this year, I thought he could have maybe brought something new to the table, and maybe started shooting the puck a little more than we'd like to see on that power play. So overall, I would have loved to get maybe maybe a higher look for Sprong, but at the same time, if Tocchet if he's not playing the system, Tocchet's not going to play him. So
yeah, ultimately that's what it comes down to.
I mean,
I do think it's worth mentioning as well, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Dave, but just like, Daniel Sprong's 27, so I'm sure Tocchet's patience level, especially when we see the same mistakes over and over, it's going to be different. We know it's going to be with a 20-year-old first round pick. It's going to be different in terms of what Tocchet's willing to put up with. But you're bang on. You're absolutely right. And it's funny, actually. Someone in the Twitter chat, the Guardian Van, replied and said, Lekkerimäki's not a Tocchet player and won't be. He's up to showcase him as a scorer. For a trade. Not sure I agree with that, but hey, someone's pointed out, not a Tocchet player. I think he can be a Tocchet player, though. That's the thing, is like, 27-year-old Daniel Sprong wasn't going to become a Tocchet player. The 20-year-old probably has a better chance.
Well, because the thing about it is, things can be forgiven if you're producing points. So, that's one thing. But B, he's also, Sprong didn't really have that work ethic, that extra little drive that was going into the corner. Like Lekkerimäki, although he's getting, out muscled sometimes, he is a bit of a water bug out there. Like, he's going around the ice. He's at least going below the goal line. He's trying to make those plays. Him getting out muscled is not really for a lack of effort. It's just, simply a lack of needing to gain a little bit and, get that strength, that lower body strength. But he is working hard. So I think overall, like, I don't I don't think to say he's not a top player is very fair, because I think, as you said, I think there is potential for him too. And let's be honest, if he's scoring goals, then who cares if he's getting tossed around a little bit? We know a few that get tossed around on the team, so
This one from Benjamin Andrews. Dave, how has D-Petey looked in his adjustment to North American ice?
Flawless. It's been absolutely flawless, and I this is maybe a bit of a hot take, and I'm fully okay to wear this, but I don't think it's much of a stretch to say D-Petey's been their best defenseman just as a whole throughout the year. He's the only defenseman with a plus minus above 0, so take what you will about the stat, but he's just been, and that's active skaters. I know Mark Friedman had a positive stat before he got injured as well, but he's not throwing any of those highlight reels except for the big hits. I love clipping those D-Petey hits, but he doesn't do anything sexy other than just play very sound, very smart shutdown hockey, and that's kind of what we expected. And so far it's been I don't want to use flawless, but because obviously there's always things to nitpick as a 20-year-old. But for my money, he's been just a solid back there. His first pass has always been good. He's a good skater, and he's a menace out there. So overall, I've been extremely impressed, and for my money, he's been the best defenseman down there.
Dave, great stuff as always. We will see you on Fallon tonight.
Thanks, guys.
There he is, Dave Hall, as seen on TV. Our thanks to Dave for joining us. You can read. Oh yeah, lots of prospect stuff. I just realized Dave hasn't submitted Blackfish yet. I'll text Dave about that. Blackfish will be either out tonight or tomorrow.
After Fallon, of course.
After Fallon. But yeah, all your prospect needs covered by Dave Hall over at Canucks Army. Our thanks again to Dave for joining us